here just to talk a little bit about a book. Anne's asked me to talk to you about a book. It's called Economic Diversity in Contemporary Timor-Leste. I'm one of the editors, but it was led by my colleague at the University of Melbourne, Professor Kelly Silver, and another professor from the University of Coimbra, Teresa Amaral Cunha. So the three of us worked together with a number of Timorese scholars and scholars from around the world, from Australia, from Portugal, from North America, to put this together. Anne and Abel also have a chapter in it. And the point of the book is to tell the story in this post-independence era of the economy in Timor-Leste, but not the economy that we always hear about of a nation propped up by oil and gas, and that one day that might be at risk, and the country itself might be at risk of running out of money because things aren't going well, and the country is reliant on this kind of capitalist economy. Of course that exists, but another kind of economy also exists in Timor. And we heard from Anne about the way in which Timor-Leste is being built, modern day independent Timor-Leste, built on the foundation of activism and youth. But I think we also need to remember that it's built on the foundation of lisan and customary relationships. And that's the story that this book tells. It tells us about the local economies that don't rely on the state, but are nonetheless very vibrant, that connect people with each other through their sacred houses, which build local economies and build the very basis on which people relate to each other and are able to underpin new economic initiatives that are coming into the country, like the remittance economy that Anne and Abel write about, so the people that are going overseas to Australia or Portugal or Korea and bringing back money, often to rebuild their sacred houses or their unfinished graves, the graves that have never been made since this independence era. So it talks about the important components of all of these kind of economic activities to rebuilding the nation of Timor-Leste. And just before I finish, I want to share with you a story which I haven't spoken about either, because it just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. My son and I, Becca is over here in the corner, we had the great privilege of going to near the top of Massacre, the Mountain of the Dead in the far east of the country. We went to the female part of those peaks. And we were there visiting a community, the Bagia community, so it's above Bagia, and have this very interesting tree planting project where farmers are planting trees. They're selling it to the international carbon market, and some of them are getting thousands of dollars each year now because they've got this initiative which is enabling them to join the international market and gain value through planting trees. But as we realised when we arrived in this community, way up above Bagia, we had to walk, and of course the first thing people told us were about the hard times, 1975 to 1978, when most of the east of the country fled to Matabien, and as people are still doing around the world at this very moment, we're sheltered, gathered, trying to stand, hold themselves together against the onslaught of a military that was intent on defeating them and shooting from them from the air. We went to massacre sites where men were lined up and shot, where the bones have equally never been recovered, but the people are still coming, looking for those bones. But amongst all this sadness and the brutality, this community is recovering. They're recovering by planting their trees. But as I learnt on this trip just 2 weeks ago, what is underpinning this recovery is their cultural practices. So in the year 2000, as soon as they could, they went back up into the mountains and they rebuilt their sacred houses. They rebuilt their functioning economy. They rebuilt their marriage exchange relationships. They rebuilt the system in which land ownership is underpinned, which enables them to plant their trees and sell them without conflict, to plant trees without conflict and sell this carbon into the international economy. So this is just one example that you'll find in this book of all of this kind of economy and complicated cultural economic practice that exists in Timor, is as vibrant as ever, which underpinned the resistance, I think, but continues to underpin its economic recovery in the present moment. So it's an open access book. There's going to be flyers up the front. You can download it for free. You can buy it for a couple of €100. Probably not many of you want to do that in the library school, but the University of Melbourne, where I work, paid some money to make sure that it was, I've been holding this upside down, to make sure that it was also available free. So there's flyers, so grab one and you'll see up the top here the address. And I recommend, I just gave you one little example of the kind of stories that you'll find in the book, but they're actually, very uplifting, I think, in terms of thinking about the strength of the Timorese society and what's already there, not just in Dili, but out there around the country. So thank you for the opportunity.